Hello everybody, welcome. My name is Richard. I think it's about time for another one of our market insight updates. So how is the used electric car market at the moment? Are they selling? Is there demand? Has it collapsed? Are they good? Are they bad news? Well, I'm going to tell you how we're getting on, because that's what we do. Day in, day out, we deal in used electric vehicles. But all I will say from our side of things is that we've been very busy recently. You've seen there's a bit of a gap in some of our videos, and that's just because we're very busy. But don't just take my word for it. I am going to give you some data from Autotrader. So not my own data, but data from Autotrader about the used car market. They're the biggest platform in the UK. So the data that a dealer can pull off of that, any dealer that uses Autotrader platform and the background data behind it, will be able to look at this and won't be able to argue it. And there's still a lot of dealers out there that don't want to touch electric cars. Fair enough, that's fine. No problem by us. More and more dealers are getting onto electric cars now, starting to learn a bit more about them, sometimes a bit wary. So are they good news, bad news? Do they sell? Do people want them? Well, here we go. Let's give you some data rundown, shall we? So we'll try and pop up a few the screenshots I'm referring to here as we go. So the first thing I'll look at here is the complete history for the last 13 weeks. That's what I'm going to focus on throughout this video. So we filmed this on the 19th of April 2024. So really the first third quarter of this year, rather, the last 3 months. And so, and I'm going to do it earlier in the month actually, because then you get the first kind of week of January, which was a bit of a strange time as kind of things start ramping up again in the new year. So where is it at? Well, interestingly, this first shot here will show you is just market health in general across the board. And in the middle of this screen, you'll see here the fuel type. And it's the first thing I look at here, because in the middle of that pack there you see electric. Market health for electric cars is up 61%. Most types are actually up. Diesel, plug-in hybrids up 49%, petrol 24%. Even diesel and petrol up a little bit, but you can see there 2%, 3%, so not by much. Demand and market health for electric vehicles is the strongest out of all of them for the quarter of this year. Let's start drilling down into this a little bit more. And show you a little bit of the graphs for this last quarter. So there we got the top graph there, long line is the market health. And again, just to explain, if you haven't seen our previous videos, market health is a balance between the demand and the supply, and that gives you how the prices are fluctuating, how quickly cars are selling. So you go to the bottom right of this screenshot here, you can see demand is up 64%, so it's really strong demand for used electric cars. But if you go to the bottom left, you see that supply is actually up a couple of percent. So given that there's really strong demand but actually increasing supply volumes, you can see the top graph for market health is generally sort of fairly even as we go along. There isn't any big dips or big climbs, but overall, for the last 3 months, it counts as 61% up on year. Previous year, this quarter last year. So that's good. And certainly we're seeing now more cars coming off of lease and fleet companies, the 3-4-year-old cars, 2-year-old cars. So there's certainly more in supply. And if you in the trade, you look at obviously the various trade sites, obviously a lot of the cars there now are electric. They're very popular as company vehicles because they save you a fortune in benefit in kind liability tax, and there's loads of tax savings for companies for first year rate relief and all that sort of stuff. So naturally a lot of companies have adopted them, often that's through lease companies, and they are starting to offload the 3-year-old cars more and more now, so there's more of them. So the main thing from this, so demand up 64% for this quarter compared to last year, which was up on the year before. So nice continuous growth there, that's good. So when you see a media headline about, oh, no one wants these electric cars, no one wants them anymore, it's a complete load of rubbish. Demand is great. So yeah, here we are, the sort of zoom in at the bottom right there, the 64% demand up. And it's been quite steady this quarter. Now I'll drill down a little bit now to market health on Teslas here, and I'll do that purely because we have a lot of Teslas. It does form a large part of our stock. Of course, they're very popular and very, very good electric car. Now, this is interesting here because the market health for Teslas is pretty good. I mean, it's up 15% year on year, but it was quite strong last year. There have been some price drops, and everyone will be aware of how much stuff has been dropping in price. But actually what we've found, at least in the last, really last kind of 6 weeks, 8 weeks, is that prices have been quite steady. Demand has been really picking up again this year. Again, talk about electricity prices have come down, interest rates are starting to come down, so that's all helping getting things going again. However, if you look at this screen here, the bottom left here is demand for the Model 3, S, X and the Y. And the Y shows that market health is down 48%, so that's quite interesting, whereas the 3, S and X are all up. Now, again, market health, the balance between supply and demand. So drilling down into a little bit more, demand for Model Y is 68% up. So there's plenty of demand there. But market health is in the red purely because of the amount of supply, 225% up year on year. This time last year, there was not that many Model Ys on the used car market. Now there's loads. Again, I've talked about lease companies offloading their fleet, so there's just more around. So, again, there's a demand is there, but because there's supply, again, that has caused some of the prices to fall. And it means you can get really good Model Y long ranges in the mid-30s now, standard ranges in the lower 30s with sensible mileage, and some good cars out there. But again, those prices now haven't really changed, I don't think, for the last couple of months. And we have a low mileage Model Y long range. It's between 35 and 40,000 pounds. It tends to sell very well. And then the standard range is, again, quite new, quite low mileage in the lower to mid-30s, sell well. The other car's been selling well is the Model 3 refreshes, the 2021s, again with sensible mileage. 25 to 30,000 pounds gets you a great one of those cars. So they've been really good. But we've actually been selling lots of other little bits and pieces as well. We're trying to keep a mixture of different cars, so we're not just Teslas. Things like the MG ZSs have been pretty good for us, so we've been selling a few of those. But demand there is there for electric. There are some manufacturers which are showing not brilliant market health overall. So I'll bring up a list of some of those on the screen. But we've got Aura, the funky cat, not particularly popular in the used market. I'm surprised they sold that many new, to be honest. You do see Volvo, Toyota, Subaru. None of those are particularly in demand for their electric cars, or their market health is down rather. But for most brands and manufacturers, they're actually quite strong market health on those. So we're seeing a lot of them through the trade and the trade sites and trade auctions and stuff like that, especially the Teslas coming off fleet, and they've been pretty good. So steady. I think the prices have steadied out across the board. There have been big drops on things like Taycans, BMW iXs, so lost a lot of money from new. So some great value ones on the used car market now. So, I mean, Taycan's under £50,000. They're making great value. And it's a bit of a difficult market for them because they make a lot of sense when people buy them new through a company and they get the tax benefits of that. But then that £100,000 new car, when it's not very old and it should be worth £70,000, £80,000, is got limited appeal to the private buyer market, and of course the business buyer that would buy it new will go and buy another new one, take the tax benefits. So until they get a little bit older and cheaper, and then they fall back into the private buyer market, leaves them in that bit of no man's land. And that's why once we've seen now the Taycan's getting to say £50,000, they then sell on okay because you're getting back into the private buyer and cash buyer market. So, but those cars, I mean, BMW iXs, things like Mercedes EQSs, they're left in that first couple of years in that kind of no man's land there. So some interesting stuff there. Again, to summarise it, the demand for EVs has been good. We've been keeping really busy. It's been really good to help some of our YouTube followers recently that have come to us to buy cars, or we've bought cars from them. So really good to meet all those customers recently as well, and help as many people out as we can. Of course, what's always good, as it's painful having a depreciation over the last 6 months if you own an electric car, but if you're buying one, it makes it much more affordable. We've seen some great, even under £20,000 for good Model S's, good Model 3s with nice mileage. So, and then things like the family MG ZS's, £13,000, £14,000. It makes them more affordable and competing with things like the Qashqais and stuff like that. So market has been generally actually quite strong, and we've kept busy. Now we've got going into this year. So before we round up this video, I usually cover off in this video as well about how I've been doing for energy use, because we have our roof full of solar panels here, over 60 solar panels, a couple of Tesla Powerwall batteries, and we're a company that's charging electric cars day in, day out. And we've had a pretty horrendous weather this winter. So how have we been getting on? So again, I'm just going to run through, and I'm opening my app here, so I'm going to run through some figures for you here. So of course it's been increasing. We had bad weather as well. So let's recap last 3 months really. So January we were 24% self-powered, shorter days, bad weather. February that increased to 30% self-powered. March 75% self-powered, and then April so far we're looking at 80% self-power. So solar's really kicking in now. The days are longer, the sun's higher, and hopefully we're going to have a good summer this year because it's been a very, very wet winter. So we're really ramping up with our energy production now, which is really good. And what we can actually look at here is how much solar energy we've produced this year. And it looks like we're on 4.9 megawatt hours of energy, which is great. So we're producing quite a lot. We've been outputting some to the grid, which we get paid for as well. So again, massive savings. And I usually say this, but again, if you've not seen this before, having solar on a commercial property is just great. You've got a warehouse, an office roof, can usually take loads of panels so you can make good production to cover your usage, which again typically is in the daytime when you're here. Not much happens here at night, so therefore you don't need the solar energy, but we can store some in our batteries. But the key thing is when you invest in solar and energy storage, you get things like capital allowance on that. You can get funding on that, and you may well find that even with some funding that the cost of the funding on that is less than the energy you'll save and expend, because the commercial electricity is still high and domestic. And so there's some really big savings to be had there. So again, if you're a company, I really do try and encourage you to look into the options for a solar and energy storage to see if it works well for you, because you may well find that initial investment, and of course it adds to the value of the building and saves you money, and you're setting a good example. And especially if you're one of those dealers out there getting into the world of selling electric vehicles, then set the example and lead by example with that. What's quite interesting recently as well is with my property at home, it's a period property, so I actually don't have solar there, but what I did do is put in a couple of batteries, and so they recharge at night on a cheap electricity tariff and a surplus electricity, and then that's what the house runs off in a day. So sometimes you don't even need solar to get yourself in a really good energy efficient situation. And I did cover in a previous video that with your cheap overnight energy at home, 10,000 miles of driving a reasonably efficient electric car like a Tesla Model 3 could cost as little as £150. So massive savings in fuel costs, and then of course less maintenance. And if you run one as a company car, huge savings there. Again, I've covered all that kind of stuff before, but again, good to recap it in case it's the first time you're watching this videos from us. So I'll call it quits there for our quick update for the first quarter of this year. I've got to go and get on with some stuff now, really. It's been pretty busy here at the moment. What's good, we've got loads of videos coming up. We've been buying in quite a lot of stock with a real nice mixture of different cars. So, and I've been driving each one of those different cars for a few days to get a really good handle on it. So we've got lots of videos coming up with lots of reviews of different cars, mostly electric, of course, and maybe one or two plug-in hybrids as well. So we can tell you about them as we go. So make sure you stay subscribed to our channel. You'll see lots of those videos coming up very soon, including the first one next is going to be about my Tesla Model 3 Highland, which is now sold and gone. Why did I sell it? Well, stay subscribed and that video will be coming out soon. I'll tell you why.